You could be missing out on up to $82.85 a week from work and income, and most New Zealanders have no idea they even qualify. That's over $4,000 a year sitting on the table, completely tax-free, and thousands of Kiwis are walking past it every single week without realizing it. I'm David, and you're watching New Zealand Pension Plan, the channel where we break down NZ Super, government support programs, and important updates that could affect your finances so you can make informed decisions and make sure you're receiving every entitlement you may qualify for. Today, we're talking about the Disability Allowance. Now, before you switch off because you think this doesn't apply to you, stay with me. This isn't just for people with a visible disability or a big life-changing diagnosis. This payment covers a huge range of ongoing health conditions, and if you're on NZ Super on a main benefit, or even working full-time, you could still be eligible. In a moment, I'll explain exactly who qualifies, and there's a common mistake I see again and again that stops good, honest New Zealanders from getting the support they're entitled to. So stick around, because that mistake could be costing you real money. Let's start with the number everyone wants to know. As of the current rate set by work and income, the maximum disability allowance is $82.85 a week. That's confirmed directly from the official work and income website, and it's not taxed. That means every single dollar of it goes straight into your pocket, not the tax man's. Now here's where I need you to listen carefully because this is the part that trips a lot of people up. $82.85 is the maximum. It is not a flat payment that everyone gets automatically. The amount you actually receive depends on how much you're genuinely spending each week on ongoing costs related to your disability or health condition. If your documented costs come to $60 a week, that's what you'll get. If they come to the full $82.85 or more, that's when you'll get the maximum. I want to be upfront about that because I'd rather you understand exactly how this works than get your hopes up for a number that might not apply to your situation. But here's the encouraging part. A lot of New Zealanders have far more eligible costs than they realize. In just a moment, I'll walk you through exactly what counts, and I think you'll be surprised at just how broad this list actually is. First, though, let's talk about who can actually get this payment, because there's a myth I want to bust straight away. Many people believe you have to be on a main benefit like job seeker support or supported living payment to qualify for disability allowance. That is false. Work and income are very clear on this. You do not have to be receiving any other benefit to get the disability allowance. You can be working full-time, you can be retired and receiving NZ Super, you can be a sole parent. None of that automatically rules you out. What does matter is your income and your partner's income if you have one. So let's go through those numbers because this is critical and it's where a lot of people either rule themselves out too early or don't realize they've gone over the threshold. If you're single and aged 18 or over, your weekly income before tax needs to be under $870 to qualify. If you're a couple, with or without children, your combined weekly income before tax needs to be under $1,295.11. If you're a sole parent with one child, the threshold is $971.51. And if you're a sole parent with two or more children, it's $1,023.59. Now, here's something important for anyone watching this who's on NZ Super with a partner who's still working. Take a moment to consider whether this applies to your situation. Even if you, the person with the health condition, have very little income yourself, if your partner is still earning a wage, their income counts towards that combined couple threshold. I see this catch people out regularly. They assume because their own income is low, they'll automatically qualify without checking what their partner brings in. So before you go any further, it's worth sitting down and adding up your total household income, because that's what work and income will actually be looking at. One more thing worth noting. Unlike a lot of other support payments, there is no asset test for the disability allowance. So if you own your own home or you've got savings tucked away, that on its own won't disqualify you. It's purely about your ongoing income and your ongoing disability-related costs. That's a relief for a lot of retirees who've worked hard to build up some savings and worry that having a bit put aside will count against them here. It won't. Now let's get into the part you're probably most interested in. what actually counts as an eligible cost, because this list is much broader than most people expect. And I think once you hear it, you might realize you've been paying for things out of your own pocket for years that work and income could have been helping with. Eligible costs include doctor's visits, specialist appointments, and hospital fees that aren't already subsidized. They include your prescription costs. They include travel to your doctor, specialist, hospital, or counselor. And yes, that includes travel in your own car, as long as you can show the distance and the engine size of your vehicle. Power, gas, and heating costs can be included too, which is a big one for older New Zealanders, especially through winter. Special foods required because of a medical condition are covered. Counseling is covered. Medical alarms and their ongoing rental and monitoring costs are covered. Even things like gardening, lawns, and outside window cleaning can be included if you're physically unable to manage them yourself because of your condition. Gym and swimming pool fees, if they're part of managing your condition, can be included. Clothing needs related to your disability, ambulance subscriptions, rental equipment, and even vitamins, supplements, and herbal remedies, as long as your health practitioner confirms you need them because of your condition. That's a long list, and I'd encourage you to listen back to it because there's a good chance at least 2 or 3 of those categories apply to your own situation right now. Stay with me because in a moment I'll explain exactly what you need to do to turn those costs into an actual payment. And there's a step a lot of people skip that ends up costing them money. Here's the catch, and I want to be completely honest with you about this because I'd rather you go in prepared than get caught out. This is not a payment where you simply ring up, say you have a health condition, and money starts landing in your account. Work and income require proof. For every cost category you're claiming, you need documentation. That means receipts, invoices, or in some cases, specific forms. For example, if you're claiming travel costs and you drive yourself, you'll need to know your car's engine capacity and how far you're traveling. If you're claiming power and heating, you'll need to provide your summer and winter electricity bills so they can see the genuine ongoing cost. If you're claiming for a medical alarm, your doctor needs to complete a specific medical alarm assessment form. And critically, your health practitioner, that's usually your GP, needs to confirm that these costs are genuinely related to your disability or health condition. This isn't something you can simply self-certify. There's a disability certificate that needs to be completed as part of your application, and your doctor fills that in alongside you. I know that sounds like a lot of paperwork, and I won't pretend it isn't. But here's the thing, once it's done, and the payment becomes part of your regular work and income payments going forward. So the upfront effort is genuinely worth it for ongoing weekly support that, remember, is completely tax-free. Now here's something that genuinely surprises a lot of people, and it's good news. You don't have to have already started your application to get backdated support. If you contact Work and Income first and then complete your full application within 20 working days of that initial contact, they can grant you the financial assistance from the date you first got in touch. So if you're sitting there thinking you'll get around to it next month, that delay could be costing you real money. The moment you think you might be eligible, get in touch with Work and Income, even just to flag your interest, because that starts the clock in your favor. Let me give you a couple of practical examples because I think numbers make a lot more sense when you can picture a real situation. Say you're a retiree on NZ Super, living alone, managing a chronic health condition like arthritis or diabetes. Each week, you're spending around $20 on prescriptions, $15 on travel to your specialist and your GP, and you've got higher than average power bills through winter because you need to keep your home warmer than most for health reasons, let's say another $30 a week on top of a typical bill. Add that up, and you're already looking at $65 a week in potential eligible costs. That's not the full maximum, but it's still a meaningful amount of tax-free support landing in your account every single week. Money that's currently just disappearing out of your own pocket. Now imagine a second example. A couple both over 65, one of them managing a long-term health condition that requires regular counseling, a special diet, and a medical alarm for safety while the other partner is out. Counseling sessions, special food costs, and the ongoing rental and monitoring fee for that medical alarm could quite easily add up to the full $82.85 a week. Over a year, that's more than $4,300, completely tax-free, that this couple might currently be missing out on, simply because they didn't realize these costs could be claimed. I'm not saying everyone watching this will reach the maximum, but I am saying it's worth doing the maths on your own situation, because most people underestimate how quickly these costs add up when you actually sit down and total them. There's also an important point about how this payment interacts with other support you might already be receiving. If you're getting the winter energy payment, that's a completely separate payment and won't affect your disability allowance application. Similarly, if you hold a community services card, that doesn't change your disability allowance eligibility either, although it's always worth having alongside it, since it helps reduce the cost of doctor's visits and prescriptions in the first place. None of these payments cancel each other out. They're designed to work together to support your overall household budget. Stay with me, because one critical detail later in this video could affect your entitlement, especially if you're someone who's been putting off applying because you assume the process would be too complicated or too time-consuming. Let's talk dates, because this matters more than people think. Disability allowance rates are adjusted once a year on the 1st of April as part of what's called the annual general adjustment. This is the same mechanism that adjusts a number of other work and income payments, and it's generally tied to the Consumer Price Index, which measures the cost of living. The rate I've given you today, $82.85, is the current rate following the most recent April adjustment. So if you're watching this video sometime later in the year, it's worth double-checking the current figure on the Work and Income website, just to be sure nothing's changed since this was filmed. There's another date you absolutely need to know about, and this one catches people out more than almost anything else with this payment. Once you're receiving disability allowance, Work and Income will review your circumstances at least once every 52 weeks, so once a year. As part of that review, you may be sent a form called Confirming Your Circumstances. I cannot stress this enough. If you do not fill out that form and return it by the due date, your payments will stop. Not reduce. Stop completely. I've heard from viewers over the years who've had their payments cut off simply because a form got buried under other mail, or they assumed it wasn't urgent. Please, if you're already receiving this payment, make sure you've got a system for checking your mail and your MSD account regularly, because that one form is the difference between continuous support and an unexpected gap in your payments. In just a moment, I want to address some of the myths floating around online about this payment, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I want to make sure you walk away from this video with the facts, not the rumors. Let's start busting some myths. The first one, and I touched on this earlier, is the idea that every single person with a disability automatically gets the full $82.85 a week. That is false. It's a maximum based on your actual verified costs. I'd rather tell you that clearly now than have you apply expecting a flat payment and feel let down. The second myth, and this one's important, is that disability allowance and disability support services are the same thing. They're not. Disability allowance is the income support payment we've been discussing today, administered by Work and Income and the Ministry of Social Development. Disability support services is a completely separate system, administered through WICAHA, the Ministry of Disabled People, and it covers things like long-term care funding and support services rather than this weekly cost reimbursement payment. There's actually been some legislative change around disability support services recently, with a bill before Parliament aimed at clarifying how that separate system operates. But that's a different topic for a different video, and I don't want you confusing the two because they have completely different application processes and completely different rules. The third myth is that you need to already be on a benefit to apply. As I mentioned earlier, that's false. Full-time workers, retirees on NZ Super, and people with no other work and income payments at all can still apply for disability allowance, provided they meet the income thresholds we covered earlier. And the fourth thing I want to clarify, because I've seen some social media posts framing this as some kind of special new disability boost for 2026, is that the current rate reflects the standard, scheduled annual general adjustment that applies to a range of work and income payments every 1st of April. It's not a one-off bonus specifically for disabled New Zealanders. It's simply the regular cost of living adjustment doing what it's designed to do. I think it's important you hear that distinction clearly, because I'd rather give you the accurate picture than let a sensational headline set the wrong expectations. So, what should you actually do with all this information? Let's make this practical because that's what matters most. First, take a moment to consider whether your ongoing health related costs might add up to something worth claiming. Think about your prescriptions, your power bills, your travel to appointments, any special dietary needs, counseling, or equipment you're paying for regularly because of a health condition. Second, check your eligibility properly. Work and Income have an official online tool called Check What You Might Get, and it takes just a few minutes to get a personalized indication of what you could be entitled to. I'd encourage you to use the official Work and Income website directly, rather than relying on a random calculator you find through a Google search, just to make sure the figures you're seeing are accurate and current. Third, talk to your GP. Let them know you're considering applying for disability allowance and ask whether the ongoing costs you're facing would qualify for medical confirmation. Your doctor will need to complete the disability certificate as part of your application, so it helps to have that conversation early. Fourth, start keeping your receipts now, today, even before you apply. Power bills, pharmacy receipts, travel costs, anything that might be relevant. The more solid documentation you have ready, the smoother and faster your application will go. And finally, if you're already receiving disability allowance, make sure you're staying on top of your annual review. Don't let that confirming your circumstances form slip through the cracks. Set yourself a reminder if you need to. Make sure you're not missing out on support you may be entitled to. This is real tax-free money that exists specifically to help New Zealanders manage the genuine extra costs that come with a health condition or disability, whether that's something you've lived with for years or something more recent. The system isn't always simple, and the paperwork can feel like a hassle, but for many people, it's well worth the effort. To summarize everything we've covered today, the maximum disability allowance is $82.85 a week, tax-free, and it's based on your actual ongoing disability-related costs, not a flat payment everyone receives. You do not need to be on a main benefit to qualify, but there are income thresholds for singles, couples, and sole parents that you need to check against your own household income. There's no asset test, which is good news for retirees with savings or their own home. A wide range of costs can be claimed, from prescriptions and travel to power bills, special food, and even gardening help. You'll need proof and medical confirmation for your application, but you can be backdated to your first point of contact if you complete your application within 20 working days. And if you're already receiving this payment, never ignore your annual Confirming Your Circumstances review, because missing it will stop your payments. If you found this update helpful, make sure you subscribe to New Zealand Pension Plan. I'm David, and my goal is to help you stay informed about NZ Super, WINZ, MSD, and every important government support update that could affect your finances. Thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next update.